Welcome, farmers. Welcome to GWC. My name is Magembe. In today's lesson, let's discuss coffee, and our topic will be setting up and operating coffee bulbing station. We have discussed this before, that we want to succeed in coffee farming. And by succeeding, what it means is that you have to study, you have to do what is called market coffee intelligence. You study, you analyze historically why coffee has not been doing well in Kenya, because you know that Kenyan coffee is one of the best coffees in the world. But the issue is that the prices have not, have not been the best, and this is because of other issues. And that is what we need to look at. And from our experience, what we have realized, some of the issues that makes coffee not favorite the coffee process is being handled. That is from the moment you harvest your coffee all the way by the time it gets sold at the international markets. In between there, that is where the issues are. And we want to address some of these issues. And you as a farmer, we want to see, what can you do at your level to make sure that at least at the end of the day, you are getting good money for your crop. And from my experience, what I've seen is that the way the system is set is that usually most small scale farmers, you have to get your coffee and you have to take it to the local society. That is a cooperative society, where this is where they do the bulbing and the washing and the drying. This is where most small scale farmers take their coffee. And at these stations, from my analysis, is that there is a lot of inefficiency that ends up wasting your money. Your hard-earned money. You take your coffee there. Sometimes the coffee is stolen. Sometimes they are not efficient in all their processes of bulbing the coffee and drying it and getting it to the market. So we want to avoid this. And in Kenya now, we've been knowing for some time that if you have enough coffee, let's say it used to be the requirement used to be 5 acres, but these days if you have 2.5 acres of coffee, you could go and get your own licenses, pulping station licenses, to start pulping your own coffee. And by doing so, you could have reduced all these other expenses that are incurred at the society and all these inefficiencies that we face at the local society. So, in today's episode, let's look at what are the challenges if you want to set up your own coffee pulping station. The first challenge you face is that you need to get a license. So there's regulatory requirement. You need to get a license to operate a coffee pulping station. And if you look at the requirements, they are not that strict and they're not that bad. They favor most farmers. But the problem is regulatory bureaucracy. There is, this country where we live, we know that the system is very corrupt, and anything you touch, corruption comes in. So when you start getting your license, is when you realize that apart from the fee, probably the fee is around 1,500 to actually get your license. So long as you meet the requirements of the acreage of coffee plantation, how many coffee plants that you have in your farm, you have space where you can set up the pulping station, and of course you have a title deed, and these are the small requirements, and the fee is about 1,500. But by the time you are done getting your license, you are going to realize that you could not have only paid this 1,500. There are people I've talked to who used to pay 50,000, who are paid 100,000, and even there's someone who told me they paid as much as 200,000 just to get coffee pulping license. You can tell that to come up with 200,000 for a small scale farmer, that's not actually very feasible. So these are some of those issues that needs to be addressed. These are some of the challenges that you need to be aware of when you're setting up this, so that you can look for better ways of actually attaining the license, but please not paying that too much money, because a lot of people, this is what discourages people from attaining their own licenses because when you know that people just gonna try to take money away from you, of course you want to avoid that. The second challenge you realize when you are set up your own private pulping station is the cost of the equipment. Of course, it's costly. When you buy the bulbing machine, that is costly. Uh, you have to build some structure, of course, where you're gonna house that bulbing machine. So you have to build the whole construction for the station. It's costly, and then you realize that, of course, you have to dry your coffee. And here in Kenya, we do what we call sun drying. When we do the wet processing, then we do sun drying, and you have to have drying beds. Otherwise, you will face a very big challenge. So all this cost, there is a cost involved. And I've not stated the cost of land because I'm assuming that you already have land, you already have a coffee farm, and there is extra space left where you can set up your own bulbing station. So this is one of those challenges. So you might need to have a bit of capital before you start this, because there is a bit of cost involved in constructing this station. And then the third challenge that you face is workers. Coffee, operating a coffee bulbing station, the tasks there are actually physically uh, um, demanding. Getting coffee, going through the process, drying it, storage. So you're gonna need workers, and from my experience is that getting good workers is not easy. Uh, a lot of our people, I don't know why, but they don't have good work ethics, and this is a challenge. People cannot work independently. Somebody has to be there supervising them, saying, "Hey, you gotta do this. You have to come to work at this time. You have to do all these procedures. Please, you have to follow these rules." Because in coffee, when you're doing your own coffee, what you realize that what makes coffee fetch good money is when you have observed all the processes and the quality control is observed. So actually, if you're having people who are not observing this, is a challenge. So you have to train your workers, and sometimes you train them and they leave, and you have to get some more. So you're going to realize that, of course, you will have a challenge of workers. But of course, what you do, just keep on training. Have a training program for people who are working for you, and create a good environment for them so that they are motivated to actually work for you. Then another challenge that you realize, again, as I've said, this is a very major challenge, is actually quality control. So if you want your coffee to get good money, you have to observe good processes. Once you harvest your coffee, you bulb your coffee, you have to do fermentation, and from fermentation, you have to do washing. You have to wash your coffee nicely to make sure that there is no sugars around. Then from there, you have to start sun drying your coffee. And while you're sun drying, you have to make sure that you are sorting your coffee so that you have the best quality coffee. So if all these processes don't go well, when you do fermentation, you don't give it enough time to ferment as per the requirements, or you over ferment the coffee. You don't wash it correctly, or you don't dry your coffee correctly, because drying the moisture content needs to be around 10, 11%. If all this is not observed, what happens at the end of the day, you will not have a good quality coffee. And this, of course, will mess up the price for your coffee, and you will not fetch enough money. So quality control is very important in these processes. Everything has to be followed for you to have a good end product. So this is a challenge. If people are not observing these processes, of course, you will not have quality coffee, and this will not enable you fetch good money. Another challenge you realize when you're operating a coffee bulbing station is waste management. The waste, the pulp, and the wastewater that comes from the bulbing station uh, can negatively impact the environment. So you have to have a good disposal procedures of this coffee waste. And what we have realized lately is that even the bulb that comes, the husks or the bulb that comes from coffee while you're doing this process, that actually, one, if it's processed nicely, dried, it could be used as manure. It could be fertilizer, actually. It could be manure for plants, for even your own coffee. But that is a process that you have to follow. And even people, I saw this actually in South America, in the US, people are now using this bulb and they can actually process it to be used as food. It can be used as food when you're making your chapati or you're making some other bakings. You can use this once it has been ground. It's like flour, and it's very good. But of course, a lot of people have not started this process. There is extra process procedure that is involved to make it a food, because you know that bulb or the husk is actually a fruit. It's only that there is extra processes that you need to do to use it as food. But you have to manage your waste water once you are, of course, bulbing and washing your coffee. That water needs to be managed so that it does not mess up the environment. So if you are not managing this properly, this can be a challenge. So these are some of those things that you need to observe. The last challenge that we will discuss is the challenge of the storage and the theft. Uh, Once you have dried your coffee and it's ready to go to the market, of course, it has to be stored somewhere. And even let's say you're going to take it to the market within a month or 2 months, what it means is that you have to have a storage facility that is well ventilated, and you make sure that the coffee doesn't get in contact with the floor or the walls, because this can make the dried coffee damaged. It can actually make it start having a mold. So you have to be very keen when you're storing your dry coffee. And another thing that we have seen, which has been actually one of the major challenges, it's theft. Coffee is gold. We call it black gold, and there's so much on demand. As I always say, it's the second traded commodity in this world after oil. So it's on demand. So if people know you have coffee ready, they could try to see how they can steal this coffee. So you have to make sure that you have a good storage facility that is secured, that cannot be broken into easily. This is a challenge. So whenever you're going to operate this station, make sure that you are having a good storage facility, that your coffee cannot be stolen. So these are some of those challenges. And as I've discussed these challenges, it's not to discourage you, but it's to make them so that you are aware, so that you're prepared. In case you want to succeed in farming, you're going to need to start bulbing your own coffee and taking it directly to the auction, actually through KPCU, and that is in Kenya. And of course, the same information is applicable, to other countries, whether you're in Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, or somewhere else. Those coffee growing areas, you can still use these same processes, but a bit, of course, here in Kenya, there is a bit there's a difference on some of these things that you have to observe, but the procedures are kind of the same. So this is actually to encourage you that get involved in coffee farming. Farming is the future, and coffee is gold. And if you do this properly as a business, you succeed. So let's keep on studying. You can do farming without studying. You have to study every day. You have to make sure that you are absorbing new information, and you are practically applying this information to your farm, so that you can get the best from farming. Because farming is good. It's only that when you're not doing it collectively, or you're not doing it as a business, it's when farming looks that it's not actually profitable. But the future is in farming. Thank you for taking time to listen to this information. And in case you're not subscribed, kindly go ahead and subscribe. We usually discuss coffee and beekeeping on this channel. Thank you. We'll see you in the next video.